Welcome to Finance Revealed. Watch the complete video to discover new market secrets. Subscribe now.
I'll predict here on this show with 100% certainty that within 4 years, half the politicians in America will be Bitcoiners and working extraordinarily hard to make Bitcoin standard in America.
The Chinese central bank is making one. The ECB is considering one. The Bank of England wants to make a Britcoin. The Fed coin is not officially announced, but I'm pretty sure they're thinking about it. How do you see this playing out, and what does that leave? What does that mean for Bitcoin investors? Will people be washed out, or is this a better opportunity, you think?
Central bank digital currencies don't compete with Bitcoin. They're centralized. They're easily hacked. They're put forward by the same people who do the fiat money. It's just a digital version of fiat money. We already have digital money from the central banks already. They're just repeating themselves. It's just more of the same. It doesn't compete with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's unconfiscatable. It's uncensorable. It's unhackable, if you will. So this is a vastly different situation. It shows that they're desperate and they're trying to catch up to Bitcoin. And the only way they know how to do it is to kind of do the same thing they've been doing for decades, print money and pretend like there's not inflation, pretend like there's not a wealth and income gap, pretend like they're not causing climate change. But from all the money printing that they're doing, they don't want to make that connection. And they've owned the media. That's why more independent sites and media sites like yourself and others are very important, because you're willing to go against the mainstream media talking points that are fed to them directly from these oligarchs.
You mentioned earlier that the governments can't ban Bitcoin. Well, how about this? Bitcoin may not be a direct competitor to CBDCs and vice versa, but the governments can make it more difficult for you to transact in Bitcoins, right? We've seen that happen in Turkey. Cryptocurrencies are banned as a form of payment. Governments can even ban miners, like in China. So they could put obstacles in the way of working with and transacting in Bitcoin. Do you see that happening?
It's all about game theory. So first of all, if two people want to transact in Bitcoin, any two spots on planet Earth, it's uncensorable. You can't stop it because it's behind an encrypted shield that's impenetrable. So it's never going to be stopped. That's number one. Number two, as I said before, Bitcoin is the first global reserve currency money that we've seen since gold and treasury bills. And it's global. And we've seen that countries are adopting it. And in so doing, they are transforming their economies outside of the U.S. dollar hegemony, particularly in Latin America, where the dollar is used as a weapon. You know, one of the big mistakes America made was weaponizing the U.S. dollar by sanctioning Iran, by interfering in the SWIFT system, by sanctioning Julian Assange, the money to Julian Assange through the PayPal and the credit cards and all those financial intermediaries. They weaponize themselves. So countries are saying, you know what, we're just going to create our own. We're going to go to Bitcoin and America can drop dead. We don't care. They're not giving us anything, but nothing. They don't ship anything. They don't produce anything. It's all made in China. You know, America's the consumer of last resort. Well, we could get consumers in Africa. We don't need the American consumer. So forget them. Move on. I'd be short. You know, the U.S. Treasury bond is probably, I know Michael Burry is short the U.S. Treasury bonds. I know it's been a widowmaker for 20 years. Everyone who's tried to short the U.S. Treasury bond has been carried out on a stretcher. And it's it's a trade that has not worked for many years. But at some point it will work. And the U.S. Treasury bond will drop 50%. Yields on those treasuries are going to go to 5, 6, 7%. And the U.S. is going to have to put out the going out of business sign. There's no coming back from that.
Wow. So you think yields will rise? Well, let's save that topic for another time. But going back to the U.S. dollar, every time I ask somebody, a Bitcoin skeptic, for example, that whether or not Bitcoin could eventually dethrone the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency, they'll say, well, hey, David, the U.S. dollar has 11 aircraft carriers floating around the world, forcing people to use the dollar. What does Bitcoin have?
Well, first of all, the 11 aircraft carriers, the U.S. military is the biggest consumer of energy in the world. And because of all the money printing, the cost of energy is skyrocketing. And at some point, they won't be able to afford even to fill up the super tankers or their military because they won't be able to afford the gas. And the gas is over in Saudi Arabia. It's in the Middle East, and it's collapsing, like in Afghanistan, because the U.S., after 20 years of a failed war, is pulling out So they're losing influence in that region. Saudis are ready to jump ship and do business with China. So they won't even be able to afford their tankers, number one. Number two, with Bitcoin, it's unconfiscatable. It's unlike the US dollar or gold, which is confiscatable. So it doesn't matter if you show up to my house with, a battalion of Marines. You can't get my Bitcoin. It's secured behind an encrypted firewall that's impenetrable. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to try to sweet talk me out of my Bitcoin, offer me something that I want to exchange for. And by the way, if I'm unhappy, I'll simply leave. I'd rather live in El Salvador, where they have seen the light. They're ready to embrace Bitcoin and outsource the monetary policy to Bitcoin. There doesn't need to be a Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, a Bank of Japan. Outsource your monetary policy to Bitcoin. Let Bitcoin do for you what you couldn't do for yourself, and that is have a sound money economy.
Why is it better than fiat money and better than gold? Besides, well, I guess it's decentralized and all the other reasons you mentioned. But a lot of politicians would disagree with you. They might say, hey, look, we've got the dollar. Dollar number one, dollar is king. We're going to keep it, and we're not going to let Bitcoin run its course.
But they have no recourse. Look, they can't do anything. That's what's happening in the Senate this week. The senators are bickering, blah, 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 and Bitcoin didn't stop. TikTok next block. Nothing can stop it. They moved 50% of the mining capacity out of China. It's now in, Texas and Uzbekistan. And the blocks kept coming. The hash rate dropped by 50 or 60%. Now it's on the rise again.
That's right.
It shows you that the network is impenetrable. The network nothing can stop the network. No army, no standing army, no country, no group of countries, the IMF, the World Bank. Nobody can stop Bitcoin blocks from propagating every 10 minutes. That's a fact. And some countries realize it and say we can build an economy around this outside of the US dollar and be free of the colonial American interests that have been plaguing our region for decades. And they're doing it. Nigeria is saying, hey, you know what? We've got 200 million people in our population. We have problems with our currency. Well, let's just go to a Bitcoin standard and let entrepreneurialism rise. The politicians have nothing to say about this. They're not important in this equation whatsoever. There's no American politician that has anything of any importance to say other than they are now a Bitcoiner, like some of them are. We have a fifth column inside the Senate. We've got at least 3 senators now that are Bitcoiners. And when the midterm elections are happening next year, this is going to be a single vote issue. There's a lot of people will lose their jobs because they don't have a good position on Bitcoin. A lot of new politicians will pick up and get jobs because they are pro-Bitcoin. All the politicians in the military and all the apparatus of state is run on fiat money, and the value of that fiat money is collapsing. And a lot of those people are going to switch over to Bitcoin. You say politicians don't like it. I'll predict here on this show with 100% certainty that within 4 years, half the politicians in America will be Bitcoiners and working extraordinarily hard to make Bitcoin standard in America.
Cryptocurrency course. Is cryptocurrency safe? Cryptocurrency index. Crypto crash. Cryptocurrency questions. Cryptocurrency drop. Cryptocurrency list. Cryptocurrency prices. Cryptocurrency kraken. Cryptocurrency trading platform.